Well, welcome to another edition of Carnivore News Bites on this 10th of February, 2020. A fairly busy week. Last week, in terms of news items, was very, very full. But right now, we look like we have the week of Trump, meaning in review, he was acquitted. His numbers were way up, almost 50%, which I think there's unreported strength, but that's for another time. And he looks very strong. In fact, the Las Vegas odds are put him at something like 70% for re-election. So it was a good week for him overall. Do you agree or not, Dr. Lockman?
It certainly was. In fact, at this point, his job approval ratings are now higher than Obama's were.
Interesting. Then we have the New Hampshire primary on the backs of the Iowa caucus, which was a disaster for the Democrats, and a little comment, Dr. Lopkin, didn't really give the bounce, because it's all about bounce in Iowa, and I think it fell short. Do you agree?
Well, Pete Buttigieg did get a bit of a bounce, but that's about it. Nobody else really got anything out of it.
Yeah, kind of a non-event, and it was a big, big, big disaster for the Democrats. And, speaking of the New Hampshire primary, which is tomorrow, the 11th, it's looking right now like Mayor Pete and Bernie Sanders are really leading the pack, and looks like Elizabeth Warren and Biden are kind of losing steam, and Klobuchar is doing very well. It could be 1, 2, 3 in that order, and I think there's talk that if Elizabeth Warren doesn't do well in her neighboring state, that could be a big problem.
It could be. It's also important to note that as of the latest polls, 20% of New Hampshire voters were still undecided.
Interesting. Okay, and we have some other news items, including the job numbers.
Yeah, we've got
Dr.
the job
Watson.
numbers came out much stronger than expected. They came out with 225,000 new jobs for January. Expected was 158,000. A lot of people are giving credit to warmer weather than expected, but no matter what the cause was, there was a lot more hiring going on. People are finding jobs, so that's a good thing. Also in that jobs report, more people came back to the job market, so the unemployment rate actually ticked up a little bit, but it's still at historic lows.
Yeah, no question about it. I think that's interesting. Dovetailing a little bit from I think it really helps Trump, which we noted that the Vegas odds on his reelection is about 70%, which I think is quite amazing.
Yes, it does certainly help him out in terms of those odds. All right, so we've got the coronavirus still going crazy. It has now passed the SARS epidemic in terms of fatalities. Unfortunately, there's no sign of this slowing down just yet. But we do have several cruise ships being quarantined. Quarantine procedures are going on all over the world in an attempt to keep this under control. Unfortunately, World Health Organization and other health officials are speculating that the numbers coming out of China are actually worse than they're reporting.
Yeah, and real quick, I just heard this over the weekend, which is troubling. You can spread the virus being asymptomatic, and the other part of it is that usually viruses on surfaces don't last long whatsoever. I heard, could be incorrect, that this virus has a huge shelf life.
Actually, what they found is the best way to keep the virus from spreading on surfaces is bleach.
That's bleach sales. We should buy stock in Clorox.
There you
go.
Very
good. And you had some information about the Oscars.
Last night, Oscar win. There was a lot of controversy over the lack of diversity, but Best Picture went to Parasite, which was the first time a foreign language film ever won Best Picture. The broadcast, however, hit its lowest ratings ever, with 3 million fewer viewers than its previous low. So America is, and the world, in fact, is tuning out of the Oscars now.
Interesting. And I guess there's a little bit of controversy with the Pelosi video to conclude.
Yes, we've all seen the images of Nancy Pelosi ripping up the State of the Union speech. There have been numerous parodies of this on social media. One juxtaposes her tearing the speech up with images of Donald Trump giving the Medal of Honor to the Tuskegee Airmen. And Nancy Pelosi has demanded that Facebook and Twitter remove this video from their sites, and both sites have refused. So we'll see what happens there. Most pundits have noted that it's a good thing that they refused, because once they kowtow to this request, it's a slippery slope, and basically we're going down the road of no free speech.
Yeah, very interesting. And really, I know we try to shy away from editorial comments, but I believe that Nancy Pelosi agree or disagree with her policies. I've always thought of her, and many other people have as well, as a very sound tactician and politician. A little bit of a comment, Dr. Lotkin, she kind of blew this one, didn't she?
She did. The image did not get the effect that she wanted. In fact, there's a lot of blowback caused by it. I think tactically, her best thing would just be let it go and move on. But unfortunately, she's dealing with situations that she's not really familiar with. Trump does not play politics as usual, and she is unable to keep up.
Interesting. Well, that concludes a February 10th edition of Carnivore News, and we'll be back again with Carnivore Bites.
See you then.
You've been listening to Carnivore Bites, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can catch us every week on carnivoreradio.com, exvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast Store, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find podcasts.